I am Councilmember Mary Sheffield, and I put on a monthly series called Conversations with the Councilwoman. And this series is focused strictly on safety and crime prevention. So I'm so excited to be here with you all. We have tons of resources. We have a great panel in store for you all. And most importantly, we have our chief here with us today to touch on some community issues that I think that you all would love to hear about. So I first want to bring greetings and welcome from the principal of this school, Mr. Stephen McGee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen McGee, and I welcome the entire community here. Thank you for coming to Central Collegiate Academy and our councilwoman, Ms. Sheffield, for the impetus of this idea, which is the first time in 5 years since I've been principal that we've actually had a meeting here, a community meeting here in reference to safety and security and the culture and the climate of an entire city. So I would like to thank her. I would like to thank our chief, Chief Craig, and more so than anything else, all of the community that came out, because we don't have a city unless we're standing on the shoulders of our citizenry and our parents and our children. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you, thank you. And I just want to say, for me, safety and crime prevention will always be a priority. I think it's so important for us to have the community really address the Detroit Police Department and issues and concerns that they have, and then in return, have the police department let us know as citizens what we can do to make Detroit safer. So all I had to do was make one call to the chief. He said he would be here and address the community, and I think that is so important. It shows his leadership, and it shows the type of man that we have in office, who's leading our city as it relates to crime. So I want to thank the chief, and I want to bring him forward to address us on some community issues.
Well, first, I just want to applaud, Councilwoman Sheffield for her leadership in pulling this together. I come from a city of Los Angeles that had council districts. I came from a city that had council districts, and so I'm a believer in it. I'm a believer because there's this close relationship between elected leaders and police departments, and it just works well. And so I know even before, just as Councilwoman got elected, she wanted to play an active role in going out on, as you know, our monthly parties or our monthly operations. And in fact, we have one coming to a neighborhood near you very soon. And I'm excited about it. And we've been consistent. This will be our 8th operation. And I really believe it's made a big difference in the city of Detroit in terms of how we serve the city, a city that, in my view, coming in the door was underserved. So what's the Detroit Police Department been up to? Well, first and foremost, as you've heard me talk about some of the things I saw coming in the door, certainly the fact that we had this very long response time, cases not being solved, certainly the community had no confidence in the police department, and certainly the morale of the police officers at the very bottom. So there were many challenges coming in, but we came in a year ago, set a very soft goal of 5% reduction of crime, and by the end of the year, we achieved a 10% reduction. And that was powerful. And I know that's just only one part of the equation. And then I thought, okay, 2014, what do we want to really give you, the community, and really serving you? Well, we wanted to certainly improve our response time, and we've done that. Right now, our response time has gone, and the way we measure it in 2 ways. One, response time is measured from the time it goes to a patrol unit to your doorstep. Right now, we're sitting on about a 10-minute response time to priority calls for service, and a 20-minute when you talk about it, from the time you pick up the phone, 911, to the time we get to your doorstep. It's hovering around 20 minutes. So I did an even deeper analysis to the response time. And one of the things that I found out, we went back 5 years. So we just talk about police officer staff, and right now we have 1,800 police officers. Compared to 5 years ago, we were hovering around 2,500 police officers. 5 years ago. When you compare our response time 5 years ago to present day with fewer officers, we are a more efficient police department. More efficient. So this 11% clearance rate to homicide, that was something that when I arrived here, that was a talk. We couldn't close cases. As of today, we're sitting on an 80% clearance rate to homicide. How are we getting it done? We're getting it done because of you. Detroit has had this reputation that, well, Detroiters don't talk to the police. There's this no snitching kind of persona in the city of Detroit. Not so. Detroiters are working with this police department. They have confidence in the police department. And as a result of that, we are closing cases. And that's good news. And I would just hope that people will get excited about that. Thank you. So crime. We set a 10% overall reduction of crime. That includes violent crime and property crime. And year to date, as of today, we have a 19% reduction to overall crime. Homicide, we have a 21% reduction. But the big news is we're sitting on a 37% reduction to robbery. That's significant in the city of Detroit. 37%. You know, when I talk about these statistics, you know, carjacking, which is a subcategory of robbery, we're sitting on a 32% reduction to carjacking. So we're trending in the right direction, and as important as me waving statistics and telling you how successful we are, perception and fear of crime is diminishing. And I'm basing that on just my interactions that I've had with different folks who live in the city, who work in the city, who visit the city, and they have seen a change. And that's what's important to me. The statistics are one measurement, but more importantly, have you seen a change? And so we're focusing on not just violent crime, but quality of life. That is why when we came in and I said, we're going to roll out this new program, neighborhood police officers, because we can't do policing like we did in the 70s. When I was a police officer here in this precinct, the 10th precinct, I walked a footbeat. And lots of officers walked footbeats. We engaged the community. We met business owners. That's when we had a police department of 6,500. Although the population was 1.4 million, and now we're sitting at 700,000. But when you look at our sworn staff today, and I just talked about police officers at 1,800, total sworn, we're sitting at about 2,300 police officers. 2,300. So we can't have police officers walking in different neighborhoods, walking footbeats. Great concept, but we just don't have the staff for it. But the Neighborhood Police Officer Initiative is one, and I hope that many of you have met your neighborhood police officer, because they're out in the neighborhoods, they're connected with a geographic segment of this area. Some precincts have 3, some have 4. And really, it's a model that has worked very well in other places that I've worked. And right now, the feedback I'm getting, people are excited about our neighborhood police officers, because those are the officers that really get down with you and deal with a lot of the quality of life issues. So if you have a problematic location, like a Colony Arms that was problematic, or King Homes, or a gas station where there's lots of loitering and robberies being committed, it is my expectation that we go in and we work with that management team, that we work with you in abating those problems. Because if you take care of the small issues, trust me, you take care of the bigger issues. So when I look at the future, I see lots of promise, but we, the police, because we're shrinking, we can't do it alone. And so with that, I'm going to open it up, because I know a lot of times you've heard a lot of what I've talked about in terms of reducing crime, addressing quality of life. But if there's some questions that you want me to answer, I'm sure more than willing will take them.
And my concern is when we have a burglar alarm go off, we do not get a police response. Are you cars going to start rolling again on alarm responses?
We do respond if it's a crime in progress. If it's a monitored alarm, someone help me here if I'm
Sure.
giving out misinformation. If it's a monitored response, where like if there's a location where glass is heard breaking, people inside, that's a crime in progress. But we have seen, and it's not just Detroit, many cities, false alarms.
Sure.
So you want to add some insights to that?
Thank you. Captain Eric Toski of the 3rd Precinct. We've gone to what's called a verified alarm response. For the most part, our studies that we did, some very comprehensive studies showed that we had in the upper percentile of false alarms. So we have to wait now, and many other cities do this throughout the country. We wait to get find out that the alarm is verified through the alarm company before sending out a response.
And the thought behind that is, you know, our priority is crimes in progress. And if we tied up police officers, again, talking about our staffing levels, on every unverified alarm, we would not have enough police officers to handle the more priority calls. And let's face it, when you look at the city of Detroit, in comparison to other cities, we handle more incidents of violent crime and property crimes compared to cities our size. So we have to prioritize what's critical. And when a citizen picks up that phone and dials 911 and says there's a shooting in progress, certainly that's the call. We want to make sure that we're getting there within minutes of the call.
2 things. What can you do about the towing companies ripping off the citizens, and what can you do about the car theft?
I can hear your frustration, and I will tell you that Detroit has been viewed by many as the auto theft capital of the country. All we got to do is look at our insurance rates, mine included. You know, my family member, my dad's car was stolen, a month ago, 2 months ago now probably, and it was the second time that first time they attempted, the second time they actually stole the vehicle, one of those Ford Fusions, because that's one of the top cars that are stolen. I will tell you, here's the good news. The good news is that we've seen almost 1,700 fewer car thefts in the city of Detroit this year. It may not feel like it, but car theft is down. I think we're sitting on about a 24% reduction in car theft year to date. Not enough, because, when, we talk about carjackings, you talk about, and I'll tell you, some of the car thefts are people that are not being totally honest about their vehicles being stolen. They're doing insurance jobs. We know that, especially some of the individuals that report carjackings that are not true, and it hurts us all because it drives our insurance rates up. So it is a focus. We certainly have a group of detectives who do phenomenal work, and they do focus on the chop shops. In fact, just several days ago, they busted a chop shop. And so it's a major focus on our part, because we know if we continue to drive down auto theft, insurance rates should drop. It's a problem, and it's been a historic problem. It was a problem when I lived here 33 years ago. I had my first and only car stolen when I lived here in Detroit, and I was a police officer. And so I feel your pain and frustration, not just yours, but I know that of many, but it is a top priority. And one more question?
Hi, Chief Craig. First of all, we would like to welcome you to our district, which is Boston Edison. I am the newly elected president here in Boston Edison, and I have several questions from our residents. The first question is, we have a lot of young adults who are now 16, 17, 18 years old. They're actually stealing lawnmowers and making go-karts and all these little scooter things that I think are illegal to be on the street. Police officers have told me that there's nothing that they can do about it, but I'm afraid that somebody's going to get hit. Second question is, on most of our streets over in Boston Edison, people drive so fast. And that's because we don't have enough police officers circling our blocks. I mean, I might see one today and I might not see another one for weeks on end. But I'm just saying that we have a lot of speeding down Chicago Boulevard, Boston Boulevard, Longfellow, and Edison. And it's all times of the day, early in the morning, late at night, in the afternoon.
I'm going to interrupt and ask you a question. And this is how this should work. We talk about the partnership between the community and the police. It's one thing to you know, relay your concerns when the police chief shows up. But the whole idea behind our neighborhood police officer initiative and our precinct captains, as the president of Boston Edison, have you reached out to the 10th precinct?
Oh yeah, we're on first
Who've you
name
talked to?
basis. I've talked to, well, we actually have a security
do
committee,
you know
and
your
I've also talked
do you
to
know the
Officer
captain?
Cherney.
You know the captain?
Well, Nick just came back as our captain over in the 10th
Okay.
precinct.
Have you had a conversation with Nick since he's returned?
No, I've been dealing mostly with Officer Cherney,
I
and
want you to deal with Nick.
okay,
I hold Nick accountable to work with you and deal with, you know, neighborhood issues like the speeding. It is my expectation that when you call, certainly as a president of a vibrant neighborhood watch, that have you met your neighborhood police officer yet?
yes.
And who is your neighborhood police officer?
Right now it's Officer Cherney.
Chuni. Have you had a conversation? Have you been working with the president? Have we made some inroads? Have we?
On certain things we've done ride-arounds and
So
everything.
that's the kind of thing I want to hear. I mean, I can sit here because all I'm going to do is look over at Nick, look at the neighborhood police officer, and say, what have we done? And if there's an area that's still a problem area, what can we do differently?
Okay.
And I don't know if you came to our neighborhood police officer summit. We had about 175 people on a Saturday about a month and a half ago. And because you're part of a very well-known neighborhood watch group, it would have been nice for you to be there to kind of hear some of the stories from some of the other neighborhood police officers as well as block clubs and what they're doing. We're going to have more.
Okay.
It's not going to stop
Our
there.
security person that heads our security over here, because we do have different things that people serve on our board, our security person was there and our zoning people were there. So we did have people that represented us. I just couldn't be there. But I thank you.
But thank you.
Thank you. And
And I did that because I want to show everyone here how important it is to, one, know your neighborhood police officer, know your precinct captain, whether it's a business owner, whether it's a resident, because that's how we're going to get this business done. Speeding, it doesn't matter. No matter how minor or how major, we want engagement. So important. So at any rate, I appreciate the time you've given me. I wish you all the best. I look forward to my next visit.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up, you all, for the Chief of Police, James Craig. All right, we're going to move along the agenda. We have with us our commissioner, Mr. Edsel Jenkins, who's going to bring us an update from the fire and EMS. Let's welcome Mr. Edsel Jenkins.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilperson. First of all, I want to say it's a pleasure to be here before you this evening, and I just want to give you all an update on what's happening with EMS and emergency medical services for the city of Detroit. Currently, as you know, we average about 15 to 19 ambulances on the streets of the city of Detroit on a daily basis, and we know that's not enough. So what we're doing, we are actually training firefighters to become medical first responders. So within the next 6 months, instead of having only 16 to 19 ambulances available to respond around the city, you're going to have 81 pieces of apparatus that can respond to a medical emergency, hopefully within 8 minutes, which is the national standard. And also, the fire department has secured a grant to train 200 firefighters to the EMT level. And our goal is, over the next 2 to 3 years, if not before then, to have not only ambulances, 25 advanced life support ambulances responding around the city, but to have 6 advanced life rescue squads and 14 advanced life engines, 14 advanced life trucks that can provide advanced medical care for the citizens. We're going to have at least 14 engines in the city that can provide basic EMT care, and 14 ladder trucks that can provide basic EMT care, and also what we call 10 rapid response units. They'll be either basic life support or advanced life support. But our goal is to have 81 vehicles in this city that can respond to your calls for help within 6 to 8 minutes. Right now, we're averaging anywhere from 14 to 18 minutes, and minutes matter when it comes to someone having a coronary. Our goal is to have someone there as soon as possible, for whatever medical emergency any resident or visitor to this city might have. And the men and the women of the fire department, EMS, fire, we're working very hard to make this happen for you and to serve you as best we can. And our goal is also to reduce the fire load, and that's going to happen through the Blight Authority. Our hopes is that the Blight Authority, when it gears up, will take down most of the abandoned structures in this city. Because right now, firefighters place their lives on the line responding to vacant structures. And approximately 60% of the fires that firefighters respond to are vacant structures. And that means our firefighters are risking their lives going into a vacant house and saving it for the wrecking ball. If these men and women have to sacrifice or put their lives on the line, I want them to be placing their lives in jeopardy to save one of you, not a raggedy piece of junk that needs to be torn down. Is there any questions?
And I had a question on whether there was a process to be discussed about fixing the broken fire hydrants that's on the streets where there are abandoned homes that could be potentially set on fire?
Yes, the fire hydrant system belongs to the water board. Now, they have repair crews that go out and effect repairs, but the fire department, our firefighters, their job is to inspect those hydrants and report those broken hydrants to the water board. In terms of repair, service, that's something that has to be addressed by the water department.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, can we just give a round of applause again for Mr. Edsel Jenkins, who took his time to come update us for fire and EMS. All right, we are now going to move to our panel discussion. I'm going to allow each one of you all to give 1 minute opening remarks and then address the question, what do you believe the root cause of crime is in our community? And that's how we're going to open up our discussion today. And we're going to start with you, Ms. Gaston.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kalia Gaston, and I'm the Executive Director at Vanguard Community Development Corporation.
Introduce yourself, you know, who you are, your background.
Sure. I've been the Executive Director of Vanguard since August of 2013. This year, we actually launched a specific safety initiative within the North End and the Grand Woodward Corridor. Many of you are aware that Wayne State Police Department does a lot of security initiatives kind of in the Midtown area, and what we were finding were that residents who lived in the North End weren't feeling and weren't seeing that increased police presence in the North End, which is east of Woodward. And so in August, we brought a lot of stakeholders together, many who are in this room, to really talk about how we could increase communication within that general area. A lot of residents were really trying to fight crime on their own block, right? They had a block club or a neighborhood association, and in some ways weren't really communicating with people who are a couple of streets over. And so we had our first meeting in June, and we'll convene that body again in August, because really, as most of you are aware, crime doesn't really pay attention to boundaries, right? So it's really important for us to be communicating across neighborhood boundaries when it comes to crime. What we found out, I live on Arden Park, and we had suffered a rash of break-ins, about 10 break-ins over a 3-month period, and people who lived in Boston Edison had also experienced crime, but we weren't necessarily talking across that Woodward boundary. And ultimately, I think when it comes to the root of crime, I do think that a part of it has to do with a lack of opportunity. I don't believe that, as people, that we are naturally inclined to commit crime against one another. We live in the city, especially in our neighborhood. What we're seeing is a lot of the burglaries are committed by young men who are 15, 16, 17, 18. Who may not be participating in the workforce, who may have come from a troubled situation. And so, enforcement is great, but I also think that we need increased prevention when it comes to really decreasing that cycle of crime that we see in so many of our homes and communities.
Okay, really quick, before we proceed, I have my colleague came, and I want to recognize Councilmember Gabe Leland. And we give him a round of applause, who just came in. I wanted to recognize him really quick. Thank you for joining us, Councilman.
I'm Von Arrington. Good evening, everyone. I represent Team Strength Detroit, which is it's a nonprofit, and we focus on youth leadership. And what we do is kind of cued right into the question, and the question was, what is the root problem that causes crime within our community? I think that issue we can see in your answer too is the family unit, the resources that are given. What do these young people have to do that is keeping them away from trouble in the streets? I think that if we are present as Yusuf, you'll hear from him, we're present in the community and we're assisting these young people and whoever else, not just young folks, but if we are present and we're providing youth resources and we are there to uplift and to play the mentor role, the big brother role, the big sister role, or the grandma or mama role, then we'll have a community that is falling down in crime.
My name is Yusuf Bunchi Shakur. I'm from Zone 8 neighborhood. I run and operate an organization called Restoring the Neighbor Back to the Hood. I was a co-founder of the gang Zone 8, where I went to prison for a crime I didn't do. While in prison, I met my father for the first time. That relationship had a tremendous impact on me, transformed my life. I've been home 13 years. I've written a few books. The question, root of crime. I'm gonna take it to a whole, the elephant in the room is particular black communities, our communities are criminalized in the sense of lack of resources, the lack of development that goes on within our community. And too many of us are becoming scapegoats because of what's the investment that's not going in our community. You have the mayor who just got millions of dollars tearing down buildings, houses. How many of these young people in our community, how many adults in our community are being hired to do those jobs? Let's begin to address those things and talk about those things. That's how we prevent crime. Crime for many of these young people that we're targeting is recreational. There's no rec centers. What else you expect for these young men to do? Come on, huh?
My name is Dale Brown. I'm the founder of the Detroit Threat Management Center. I started 20 years ago helping families on the east side of Detroit manage violent criminal activity by creating conditions where they could not home invade and murder the families that lived near where I lived. And I did that through nonviolence by using psychology as opposed to physicality. We really extol methods by teaching strategies, tactics, and logistics on how to create a nonviolent outcome. We're a school. My facility is located and has been located in Detroit for 20 years, downtown. Right now we're in the riverfront area near Mount Elliott and East Jefferson. We have free classes for families. We have police officers training, and we also provide bodyguards for security corporations and for corporations in general. We are responsible for safety for approximately 1,000 residents, including Palmer Woods, Sherwood Forest, and the golf course community. And hundreds of homes throughout Detroit are also signed up with our services for rapid response to their circumstances of involving threat. What we pride ourselves in is the ability to create a non-violent environment by focusing on creating conditions where violence does not take place, where we do not create the conditions for an arrest because we are there so fast that we can stop the escalation and, again, doing that non-violently. So this is what we hope to spread throughout the city and through our training system, as well as providing physical support for those who need it.
Again, my name is Captain Eric Toski. I'm the commanding officer of the 3rd Precinct. I don't think there's a simple one-term answer for what the root cause of crime is. I think it's multifaceted. I think there's a lot of different issues at play. I do have easier answers for how do we prevent crime and how do we deal with crime. And the top of the list is to understand crime. When I used to be the commanding officer of Crime Control Strategies. I worked with crimemapping.com, if anyone's familiar with that. It's a free website. It's available as an app for the iPhone, and you can see what the crime is in your area or any specific area within the city. Some other cities participate, but Detroit does. And we have, towards the end of last year, we opened up every crime category. Prior to taking over in crime control, we did not have every crime category shown. So I think that education and transparency is the most important thing, and for the community to understand what crimes are going on in the neighborhood.
Captain Nick Kiriakou from the 10th Precinct. While I've got the microphone, I want Sergeant James Coles to raise his hand. And Officer Cheney, where'd you go to? If you have any concerns regarding the 10th precinct, make sure you seek myself out or one of these two fine officers for assistance. Like Captain Toski said, there really is no single answer to the root cause of crime. It's multifaceted. There's a lot of layers of things that can affect why a particular person may or may not engage in a life of crime. Like other panel members have said, you got to look at what a young adult was doing at a certain time when they committed the crime and what they might have otherwise been able to have been doing if we had a viable opportunity to keep them occupied when the criminal thought crossed their mind. Socioeconomics is a big factor. One of the things that we've seen that's been a bit of an eye-opener lately is in the past when somebody committed a life felony like an armed robbery, and by life felony what I mean is that's a crime that's punishable by any number of years up to life in prison. So I say that to say that we have had instances in this city where we've locked somebody up for committing an armed robbery, and when we're interrogating them to try to find out why they did what they did, you'll have a young person say, well, I gotta eat. And that tells us we have a very big problem compared to what used to be the case when somebody would commit a dangerous felon like that. They usually would have had a longer history of other felonies that led up to them committing that very heinous crime, and it's a heinous crime that can turn into something a lot more serious. So as people have mentioned, the socioeconomics, the layers of things that affect crime are many-fold. That's why we have to take a multifaceted approach to dealing with crime on all levels.
I'd like to address one part of that I left out, and that is what I believe the origin of the violence and crime is, and that is that